Well, he's been seen by over 50 clinical psychiatrists, and with each many different opinions. Dr. Loomis was the only one that could see him in the wild, and he concluded he was nothing more than pure evil. This is your spooky spot on NECA Toys Halloween 2018 Ultimate Michael Myers. It's been 40 years since Laurie Strode survived a vicious attack from crazed killer Michael Myers on Halloween night. Now she faces a terrifying showdown when Michael returns to Haddonfield, Illinois. But this time, Laurie is ready for him. You know what's funny? If you actually watch all my other spooky spots for 2021 and you connect the dots, it forms a straight line leading you right to the Halloween 2018 Michael Myers that we're going to be having a look at in this review. Go figure. For some size comparisons, though, let's have a look at the Halloween 2018 Michael Myers compared next to the Halloween 2018 Laurie Strode, which we just recently had a look at. Notably, yes, Michael Myers is going to be a lot taller than Laurie Strode. Notably, he is a lot taller than Laurie Strode in the movie, so it makes some sense that she's going to be a little bit smaller in size. But for some other comparisons of sizes, another just recently looked at re-review of an Ultimate Michael Myers. Here he is next to the Halloween 2 Michael Myers. Get him straight, stand straight here. And while it may look like they actually share similar bodies, they do. But I've also noticed as well, and maybe we'll get more into elaborate comparisons in a second, but the 2018 Michael Myers also has a slightly fuller looking body than the more slender looking Michael Myers we got from Halloween 2. Looking at the accessories that come packaged with 2018's Mikey, you get yourself the tombstone of Judith Myers. And unfortunately, we don't have a 1978 Michael Myers, although with Halloween Kills giving us a flashback scene, I don't know, that could be one way that NECA Toys could work around the license. Maybe we might get ourselves a Halloween Kills flashback Michael Myers. Close enough to 1978. On the top, we've got beloved daughter Judith Myers carved into the stone, and down below that, the born date of November 10th, 1947, the deceased date, October 31st, 1963. Not only does it have a nice weathering look to it, as I'm hopefully tilting it towards the camera so you can kind of see there's these little scratched in markings of silver. It kind of gives it the look of stone, but it also has quite a stable base to it. And when it does come to putting it on a stand, for example, you're never going to have to worry that the tombstone's going to fall over, as it's got a nice, sturdy, stable base. Moving on to the other accessories that come included with the figure, you get yourself the jack-o'-lantern that I believe the boyfriend brings along with him. Carved in there are hearts for eyes. Oh, isn't that so sweet? And then an upside-down heart for the nose. The pumpkin looks pretty good enough, and then along the back you can see there's a little screwed-in battery compartment. Luckily, though, you'll be happy to know, years after the first time I had a look at this guy, the batteries still work. I wouldn't have to worry about that. Would suck so much, having to go back and look at this figure and then have to stop and find batteries that would be suitable enough to plug into the back. To turn this on, all you have to do is press down the stem on the top of the pumpkin. And not only does it illuminate in yellow, you may also notice as well that it's pulsating to make it look like a flickering candle. Sideshow Collectibles, take note. When we had a look at their Michael Myers, the 1978 release, I believe their pumpkin only had just a steady light, whereas this one at least flickers, looking like it would be a candle. And to turn it off, you're basically just going to reverse the steps, press down on the stem, and it turns it right off. You have to press it down far enough. If you just mildly press it, it doesn't seem to turn it off. You have to really commit to it. Really commit to it. Put that to the side. This is a really fun accessory, and I'm glad to see that they included this. It's certainly creepy. This is the head sculpt of Officer Francis, who, of course, he carves. How he has the dedicated time to sit there and carve out a jack-o'-lantern out of some guy's face is beyond me. But I appreciate the fact that at least he took the time to do it, because it made for a really eerie-looking scene in the movie. In the movie, though, it would have had a lantern or a flashlight underneath inside the cavity of the neck, and that would have been the thing that illuminated it. Sadly, sad to report that Officer Francis here doesn't illuminate. What's interesting, though, is that Officer Francis was played by Christopher Allen Nelson, who actually is a makeup artist behind the scenes. It's kind of interesting, the fact that he found his way into the movie. It's got some nice blood all over it as well. I wish there was a way that this could have illuminated or slightly a few steps after that, I wish at the very least they could have packaged with this figure a flashlight. Not a working flashlight, but at least a flashlight that it could have been stuck into the bottom of the head. Officer Francis. I think he only brought a brownie, didn't he? Just a makeshift brownie that he made in his lunchbox. He should have packed a better lunch, although I guess knowing his fate later on in the movie, he probably packed light for that reason. Let's put that to the side. Then the figure gets a whole bunch of weapons. We'll start maybe with this one first, the fire poker. Made of very thin plastic, very pliable, and as you can see, painted. Some additional brushing of silver that's added over top of it. I'm guessing that the base coat is probably a darker gray or even a black, and then they brush the silver over top of it. But again, it's very, very soft. Careful, careful, don't do this, whatever you're doing. Whatever I'm doing right now, don't do this yourself, because that's going to break it. It's just more for me to indicate to you that it is a softer plastic that they're using. The figure also comes included with a hammer. As you can see, the hammer has been used. In the beginning, Michael Myers, when he first escapes, sort of plays swapsies with the different weapons that he finds in the houses. Oh, I'm going to pick up the hammer. The woman killed in the kitchen with the hammer. Are we playing Clue? And then from there, he picks up the knife and proceeds with his merry little way of killing people. It has been caked in blood, as you can see. I do like the way that the handle looks like it's made of real wood. Old wood. And of course, that can be displayed in the figure's hand as well. And then the last thing the figure comes included with, for weapons at least, is a butcher knife. A go-to, I think, for many collectors when it comes to displaying Mikey. They like to usually display him with the butcher knife. I'm in that list myself. It's not as soft of a plastic as the fire poker. But it's painted nicely in silver, even right to the point where it's got the little riveted points where the two halves of the plastic. Do I always say that? I think I always say that every time we look at a butcher knife, talking about the sandwiches of plastic with the metal in the middle. Anyways. And then he comes with also some swappable hands. Now, I did notice one thing. Going back to look at this figure later on, I think I'm missing a hand, because there's a section in the tray where there should have been a hand, and it's empty, leading me to believe that I may have lost a hand may have fallen out. I'm guessing, though, it was a gripping hand, judging by the fact that one of his hands that he comes included with, soaked, yes, in blood, but he actually comes with a gripping hand. And the other compartment was about this size, so I'm thinking at some point down somewhere, I don't know where it happened, I may have lost one of the hands. It's fine, because I'm still going to have him displayed with the knife on this side of his body, but man, it's a bit of a bummer, the fact that I had to lose the hand. I'm going to have to see where that went. I'm sure my kitten has probably stolen it and hidden it somewhere. To change out the hands, by the way, you'll notice already stock in the sockets of his forearms. He's got rather stained looking hands. We're going to go ahead and just wiggle this hand off, because that's the hand that we have to work with right now. Just wiggle it off the peg, remove it like that, and then take the hand. I don't want to jinx myself by saying don't drop it. Oh, I may have already jinxed myself by saying don't drop it. And then we're going to go ahead and just wiggle that onto the peg. Make sure it gets far enough in that you hear that satisfying snap. And then you can go ahead and take things like, you know what, we'll go with the hammer for the time being. Put the hammer in his hand. And you can display the figure with that. Now the other hands, literally on the other hands, the figure also has included a relaxed hand. Again, consistent. They're consistent with the amount of blood that's all over this guy. And yet nowhere on his coveralls. That's strange. And then he also has the famous shot-off fingers, which I think he ends up bandaging himself up. Did Michael take the time? I guess he would still bleed to death. He is human, isn't he? Sort of questionable in Halloween Kills, but he does have to blast it off fingers. That's a cool looking hand. I usually will display my figure, although this guy's been in packaging for a while. I'm going to put this guy, I think, back out on display, and he's definitely going to have the missing digits. This little piggy went to the market? No. This little piggy stayed home? No, they're gone. They turned into sausages, and then what's left is the three little piggies still left. Anyways, he comes included with those, and then he comes with the swappable head sculpt. And I guess really, you know what? Seeing as we're going to commit to this, let's go ahead and wiggle this hand off the peg as well. I personally like to display him with the blown off fingers myself. We're just going to wiggle that off the peg. The pegs are fairly small. And then we're going to go ahead and take the replacement hand, and we'll just wiggle that back onto the peg. Careful, though. The pegs are notorious for swiveling back and forth while you're trying to get the hands in place. Putting moisturizer on your own hands probably isn't going to help the problem either. Go ahead and just wiggle that back onto the peg. Get that on there. I really have to commit to this. I thought I would just be casually dating this hand, but it looks like I'm going to have to settle down and marry it. There we go. There we go. You can see some gruesome looking side of his, well, what would have been left of his fingers. Gruesome looking sight. I love it. So those are all his hands. Then we can move on to Michael Myers' head sculpt. Now, it comes with two versions of the head. I guess for this, it would probably make then some sense. Maybe we'll do, I'll hold the figure up, and then we'll do comparisons between the two. It's picking up Michael Myers so you can see the difference between the two head sculpts. There is mild variations between the two. Ultimately, I think I end up settling on this head sculpt because I think I like it a little bit more. Some have actually said in previous reviews that I did of this guy, that the two different head sculpts represent the two different actors that played him. The main one, James Jude Courtney, and then this one being Nick Castle when he wore it for that very short time in the movie. I don't know whether I'm willing to buy into that idea, but definitely the head sculpts are different from one another. The hair is also very different too. You can see like this one's slicked back a little bit more, and this one's a little more crazier and wilder. Of the two head sculpts, again, I prefer this one, but I think both head sculpts are really good on this guy. And I feel like they probably are going to be retooling this head sculpt for that initial release of, well, I guess the follow-up release of the Halloween Kills Michael Myers, which I'm definitely looking forward to getting. I'm going to replace this head sculpt because I feel like not only does this one look a little bit more like Michael Myers from the movie, but I think it's just a better head sculpt as well. The neat thing about it, though, one thing it carries over is he still has the knitting needle mark on the side of his neck, which I may have actually said in the other review of the Michael Myers. I called it a sewing needle. It's not a sewing needle. It's a knitting needle right embedded on the side of his neck. A little harder to make out the eyes, I suppose, on this one than on the other one. To bring the other one in so you can see. He does have very blank, absent eyes. He has one looks to be a dead eye on the one side. That's, of course, where he would have been stabbed. Good-looking head sculpts. If I could offer up any little bit of criticism, I would say for the head, is I find like the hair is a little too dark. In the movie, he comes across like he almost has like straw, whispery-looking hair. Whispery-looking hair. And I may have gone in and lightened up the hair a little bit more. More of a lighter brown than the darker chestnut brown that they ended up going with. Good sculpt, though. Good paint as well. And then, of course, when we get to his coveralls, again, kind of like the mask and the hair, I feel like the coveralls are a little too dark. I would have made them a little bit more lighter, a little more of a grayish. Not maybe to the color extent of what we get here with the Halloween 2 Michael Myers, which again we can bring back in. But I feel it's a little bit more closer to the colors of Halloween 2 Michael Myers coveralls than this more dark blue that we end up getting here. As I mentioned already, he does have a little more of a fuller figure. And that fuller figure is accomplished by the fact that they just put a rubbery plastic overlay over top of his existing body. It sort of does give him still the available articulation, which we'll talk more about in a second, but the little rubber overlay just sort of allows them to use the same molds and then just basically remold, retool the things that are going to be going over top of it. I don't know if I would have made him so full like this. He comes across very lanky in the movie, like the outfit, the coveralls was just sort of hanging and bagging on top of his body. I guess maybe that's one of the reasons why they made the body a little bit fuller like this, the idea that it's supposed to look like he's living in the suit rather than the suit being fitted to his body. The coveralls do look good, though. I like the high collar that they've given it as well. I'm still keeping the hammer in his hand. How long am I going to keep that hammer in his hand? But spin it around. Now, the figure does have what many have coined the diaper, the lower diaper on these figures. Softer plastic, yes. To conceal, though, the joint on the legs, which, of course, we'll look at in a second, they have to basically put an overlay. And it's just a continuation of the suit that goes all the way down, but does sort of, in a way, give him that look like he's wearing diapers. But it's more, at least, a continuation of the top of his torso. A little bit further down, again, you've got his boots here. The boots are pretty good. They kept the color of the peg close enough. I may have gone in there, maybe made that a little bit darker, but the coveralls look generally pretty good on this figure. Looking at the articulation now, Michael Myers, his head is on a ball peg, so it does allow the head to go up, it does allow it to go down, and also goes back and forth as well. I guess technically, yeah, you can rotate it all the way around as well. At least the collar is soft enough that it doesn't get in the way of things when you are rotating the head. The arms do come out. Not quite, I would say at a 90-degree angle bend, more so like a 45 degrees, but it does allow the arms to rotate all the way around. The arms do have two hinge joints, one there, and yeah, one there as well. This does allow the elbows to bend a double bend. The hands, of course, rotate all the way around. And you can hinge them slightly back and forth too. And then, of course, because he's got in like this encased rubbery plastic torso, he still gets access to a ball peg or a hinge joint on the inside of his torso, but it doesn't really lead to much movement. I mean, again, like you can feel that something's working there inside the torso, but it really does limit a lot of it just because he's got this overlaid plastic over top of it. Then when you get to the legs split out. And again, it feels like there's ratcheted joints inside the legs. Well, not inside, but in the interior of the leg cavity. The legs go forward. The legs also go back. There's a single hinge only on the knee. Allows the lower leg to rotate back and forth. And then when it comes to the boots go up and down. Can you see that? I hope so. Up and down this way. And there's also an ankle pivot too. No toe articulation. Not that I feel like the figure really needs toe articulation. But it's a good looking Michael Myers. I wanted to also cover off this guy in lieu of the fact that we are going to be getting that Halloween Kills Michael Myers, which again, I feel is probably just going to be a remolding of this guy. And then there's just going to tool things slightly different to the head sculpt and the side of his body. And again, I'm freeing up a little bit more space so we can bring in Laurie Strode. Figure that we just recently, although we looked at these guys a long time ago as well, just recently decided to crack her open back out of the packaging. And I wanted to have a look at her again. And wanted to have a look at him again, not only because, again, we are getting the Halloween Kills Michael Myers, but also because Halloween Kills just hit theaters. Still only have seen it twice. I don't know if I'm going to watch it a third time. Maybe I'll wait till next year. I don't think it really needs a third viewing personally. But still, I like the look of these figures, this Michael Myers. My preferred head sculpt is certainly this one. I think there are elements to this figure that I think could have been fixed. But overall, it's a nice looking Michael Myers based on his 2018 design. While I may not be crazy about the Halloween 2018 look of Michael Myers, I do think that NECA Toys handled the figure really well. They did release two versions of the Michael Myers, one of the 7-inch scale that we looked at in this review, and then one of a quarter scale format that I did also have a look at several years ago. I might even go back and just decide to re-review that quarter scale Michael Myers. Go back and have a look at some of those older Mikeys that we looked at earlier here on this channel. For this guy's release, he gets a fair bit of accessories. Of course, the Judith Myers tombstone, the head sculpt of Officer Francis, what's left of him at least, a fire poker, a hammer, and a knife. And of course, he comes with a bunch of swappable hands, the notable one that has the blown away fingers, and two different head sculpts. Some have said again that the head sculpts represent the two actors that played him. I don't know if I would believe that, but I do think that there's enough difference between the two that you don't feel like you're getting the same head sculpt times two. Ultimately, I'm resorting and displaying him with this one. It's my favorite of the two. And I would imagine that when it comes time to the Halloween Kills Michael Myers, when I get my hands on that guy, they're probably going to be using a lot of the same mold that we got here with the 2018 release, and they've just tooled it slightly, having the burn on the side of his face and the side of his jumpsuit. Definitely looking forward to having a look at that guy. Have you had a chance to pick up the 2018 Michael Myers? Have you had a chance to pick up the Halloween Kills Michael Myers? If you have, let me know down below in the comments section. And also let me know what you guys thought of Halloween Kills. We'll tread cautiously on spoiler territory. Please don't spoil it, of course, for people that haven't yet seen the movie. But if you have seen Halloween Kills, just say yay or nay. Yay, good movie. Nay, not so much. If you guys are new to this channel, enjoying the content you're seeing, hit that subscribe button down below. Turn the bell notification on and keep your peepers peeled because there will be more spooky related videos and more Michael Myers reviews coming your way in the not so distant future. And as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.